So I had a very interesting conversation with this college kid at the Flesh and Blood World Event Championship that I just want to talk about, man. I wanted to hear his perspective and how he got into the game and what the whole flesh and blood type of thing is for the college environment, man. Because I've been saying for a while on my channel that I think that that is the biggest prime market for flesh and blood to penetrate. And it's hard. And a lot of different markets people think that are really good are the international market where flesh and blood apparently is booming, but also the PvE and like the RPG element type of market of people who really like that element. That is another market that flesh and blood is targeting. But I think colleges are a really, really good market that haven't really been on the radar for flesh and blood. Now, let me tell you the interaction. It was it was pretty funny. So I'm just walking, minding my own business like I always do, and I'm just walking through the tent for Flesh and Blood World Championship, and I see a guy just starting waving at me, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, this is probably somebody who's watched my videos. He's flagging me down. He wants to say hi to me because, I've had that multiple times during the day, and which is cool, and I love to talk to people who watch my videos. So I walk up to him, and he does this weird look. He's like, and he like retracts his hand, right? Thinking like, oh, maybe I don't know this guy. And I was like, oh, I was like, hello, and he said, hey, are you that guy at my locals? And I said, nah, I don't think so. And I took my mask off. I was like, this is what I look like. And he's like, oh, yep, no, you're not the guy. You look a lot like this other guy that I have at my locals. And I'm like, oh, cool. Well, yeah. How are you enjoying the event? I was just like kind of, put off base. It's like, hey, well, how do you like the event? And he's like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I've been playing a lot of games here or there. It's just I have a lot of schoolwork recently, so I haven't really been able to play the game. So he's enjoying the game, which is great. And I heard, oh, he has schoolwork. And I said, okay, well, are you in high school, college? What's the deal here? He said, yeah, I'm in college. And then a light bulb kind of flicked in my brain. Then I was like, okay, I'm interested in learning what Flesh and Blood is doing in the colleges because we haven't really heard that anywhere here and there, and I think it's a prime market. So I pester him and I said, hey, like, how's it going with the colleges? How many people are playing in there? And like, are there clubs and stuff for it? Because I think that in those types of environments, you got these guys and gals just grouping up in their dorms and everything who are bored as hell. They play games of Flesh and Blood. It seems like they have a lot of free time, a lot of time. They don't have as much money, but they have time to play these games, between their schoolworks and frat parties and whatnot. So he began to just explain that, yeah, his friend group, he just couldn't get them to play. They were really into Super Smash Brothers and other type of video game type stuff. And when he showed them Flesh and Blood, when he got these prefab blitz decks, he talked to his local game store and he got just free stuff where it was just like free pre-made blitz decks out of bulk, like commoner format, and he showed it to his friends and buddies and how to play. And I'm like, I don't know, video games is kind of what they're into, and it sounded like a tale of woes in a way. Like I felt bad for the guy. Like he's like, hey, yeah, no, I tried my best to just get people acclimated and get people interested in the game, but it's just hard to push. And I think overall, from his story overall, is that there is a market for it. There are people who could be interested. They're playing competitive video games already. Super Smash Brothers is fun as hell. I love that video game. And it's all about like being competitive, like 1v1. That's where like the true battles are. And Flesh and Blood has that very same vibe. When you're like in it, fierce combat with one another, it has that vibe. It's just hard with the new generation of people who grew up with all these video games and the Fortnites, Halos, all this shit that's just like just sensory video game type of stuff. Because when I grew up, it was more of I just had the N64, and even that for the time, that was a great fucking console. You have Zelda, you have Mario Kart, you've got a lot of fun games on that thing. But I was acclimated to trading card games. Trading card games, I played Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, had a blast with them. So later on well, also Magic the Gathering. And later on in life, I was like, oh, like Flesh and Blood. It's a trading card game. I like trading card games from my past, but it really made me think of like, I don't know if newer generation people who were in college had those kid experiences of trading card games as much. Now, granted, I will say my sample size was one. I only talked to one guy who was in college who liked Flesh and Blood, who tried to get it into his university, and he just wasn't having the greatest success. And it doesn't sound like there's any clubs or whatnot for that. But I think that if there's different organized play programs, the OP programs for just college students, I think that that could really spread like wildfire, especially if you pit them against each other. You have one college versus another, and you have like a college championship. I think that if some type of play program was around the colleges, it would be very cool to get that going. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of is it appropriate for college students to play because of some of the artwork, but I think it's fine. I think it's 16 plus. That should be fine. And I know that Flesh and Blood is totally focused on their specific building out a game first, and then organizing communities. That's more of like happening organically, right? And I think that it's just a matter of time before Flesh and Blood penetrates the college market. But when they do, I think the biggest benefit for it is that it's really a self-replenishing type system where you have the seniors, right, in college, and well, probably juniors, because seniors are pretty like, when you're a senior in college, you definitely have a lot of stuff on your plate and you're trying to just get out of fucking college. But, when you have more time as a sophomore in your first 2 years or junior, you're playing the game, right? But the freshmen coming on, they're like, oh, wow, I love college. Hey, look, these people are playing a card game. What is it? And they get acclimated. So the freshmen get acclimated to Flesh and Blood. Then they turn into sophomores and junior, and then the new group behind them, they see people playing the card game, and they get interested. It's really a just funded type of thing where people are constantly being acclimated to the game because they're in a social construct environment that is facilitating this game. So this is played out multiple times in other TCGs that we've seen. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Magic all have this. If they're in the school system and kids are playing the game, then you have these older kids or who are teaching the younger kids what they're doing, and then the younger kids become the older kids, and then the younger kids behind them learn it from them. So it's really a self-replicating fashion versus, me as, in my 30s, I'm not in that type of environment. I'm definitely not telling people at my work environment about Flesh and Blood. You don't have these type of social construct situations when you're older where you actively discuss it with your peers or it's actively being, promoted. And I think the school system in a way is a very, very big way to promote Flesh and Blood. So I just wanted to tell that story because I thought it was interesting. And after we talked about him, the gentleman that I talked to, like it wasn't working at college. It was like I basically just we chatted a little bit and then said bye and have a good time, and that was that. It turned out to be a good interaction, but it was extremely awkward at first because he thought I was somebody else that he didn't know, and he didn't even know that I have a YouTube channel, which is all good. It's just funny because I thought something and he thought something, and apparently we ended up just chatting about me trying to like poke and prod into different queries of that standpoint, because he even said himself, he's like, yeah, I think I'm like the youngest person under this tent, or like there's not that many younger generation people that were in attendance that I saw, especially too. It was mainly a lot of people who were 25 to 35 range, plus you had and then the 35 to 45 range as well. You higher than that. You had a lot of range of older adults in the audience, which is all good. That's what Flesh and Blood mainly caters to. And the best part about that from a Flesh and Blood standpoint is we got the money. We have paying jobs, we have big boy type of things and responsibilities to do. So I think when you have collectibles and when you have different situations where Flesh and Blood has collectability, there's money to back that shit up. But conversely, a lot of us don't have as much time. We don't have as much energy to put into playing the game. That's why I think the college type system is the perfect way for people to get like a more market of that standpoint, where you increase the player base drastically. You might not increase the revenue and the money coming in as much because it's not going to the collectible realm. It's mainly just going to the playable cards. But even still, that adds up over time. And hey, maybe people who are interested in Flesh and Blood and don't have the cash, maybe they make better life decisions. Maybe they buy trading cards instead of like, Wendy's or McDonald's or, Burger King. They like make different buying decisions earlier on. Anyway, and I guess that's subjective as well, but that's a different topic altogether. So that really sums it up, my ramblings on the whole college type market that I see Flesh and Blood really focusing on in the future. But I think that it is going to take some time to penetrate that market, especially because of this new age type of feel of new people coming in who know that just video games are very easy entertainment and trading card games are kind of antiquated type of entertainment. It just is what it is. So, but once that veil is broken, then I think that you're going to have this cycle where new people just instantly, reacclimate to the game because they're put in that social construct environment of college, which we've seen in many other TCGs in the past. It's really not talked about as much, but that's why new people come on constantly, is because they're put in that environment. And over the years, just, new people keep coming on because new people have to go to school. It is what it is. So anyway, that's my rant. That's my thoughts on the whole thing overall. And let me know what you think. Cheers.